Hello and welcome dear friends to the sixth video in the English Grammar Mastery course. My name is Sai Sarath and in this lesson we are going to dive into the world of verbs, those magical words that give life and meaning to our sentences. Verbs are the heartbeat of language, representing actions, events and states of being. In this lesson, we will learn about verbs and different types of verbs. And then we will focus on how to avoid mistakes and use the verbs correctly in our sentences. Before we start, just remember that if you have any questions at all, you can ask me those in the Q&A section or email me and I will get back to you personally as soon as possible. So without any delay, let us begin our lesson. First of all, let us understand what verbs are. Verbs are the words or group of words that indicates an action or state of being. These are actually two different categories of verbs. When I say action words, I mean words which express physical activities like talk, eat, run, sleep or play. These are sometimes known as action or dynamic verbs. For example, in the sentences Rahul runs fast and Shreya eats slowly, I am using the verbs run and eat. Here, they are expressing physical actions that they perform. So, these are dynamic or action verbs. When I say state of being, I mean words which expresses a situation or a condition like have, be, think, like, believe, etc. These verbs are sometimes known as stative verbs. Let me give you some example. In the sentence, I have a large family, I am using the verb have. Here, I am not talking about doing any physical action. I am just telling you about a situation, in this case about my family. Okay, so why are we learning about the difference between action and stative verbs? Is it important to us? Yes, it is. Because there's an important rule in English that stative verbs cannot be used in ing forms. When you want to use a continuous form, you can only do that with action verbs. Take a look at these sentences. My friends are playing football this weekend and children are eating their lunch together. Both of these sentences are correct because the verbs play and eat are physical actions. So we can use ing forms. Now take a look at these sentences. I am having a large family and Tanaya is liking chocolate ice cream. What do you think about these sentences? Are they correct? No. Both of these sentences are wrong. This is one of the common mistakes that people make by using ing form with stative verbs. Remember the rule, stative verbs cannot be used in ing forms. Don't worry, I will be talking about this again when we learn about the forms of verbs and tenses. In the vast universe of verbs, there are several types, each with its own unique properties. In this class, we will explore the main types of verbs and learn how to identify them. Here is a list of different types of verbs that we will be learning about in this lesson. Action or dynamic verbs, stative verbs, transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, linking verbs, helping verbs, modal verbs, and phrasal verbs. There are two more types of verbs, regular and irregular verbs, and some important terminologies associated with verbs like infinitives, participles, gerunds, etc. We will learn about them in the lesson verb forms. Since all of these are related, it will be easy for you to understand them. And since we have already learned about action and stative verbs at the beginning of this lesson, let us now learn about the transitive verbs. Transitive verbs are the verbs which are used with an object. They require a direct object to complete the meaning. This means that the action of the verb is done to something or someone. For example, in the sentence, I ate an apple, the verb ate is a transitive because it has a direct object, an apple. Without the direct object, the sentence would be incomplete and the meaning would be unclear. It is called transitive because it passes its action from the subject to object. Let me give you another example. In the sentence, Shruti ate chocolates, ate is the transitive verb because it is passing the action from subject to the object. That means Shruti is doing the action and chocolates are the direct object because they are being eaten by Shruti. And without the object chocolates, the meaning of this sentence will become unclear. Let me give you some more examples. The boy kicks the football. He loves his mother. Geeta baked a cake. In these sentences, kicks, loves, and baked are all transitive verbs. The opposite of transitive verb is intransitive verb. Intransitive verbs are action verbs that does not need any object to complete itself. It is called intransitive because it does not pass its action from subject to the object. This means that the action of the verb is not done to something or someone. For example, in the sentence, I sleep, the verb sleep is intransitive because it does not have a direct object. The sentence is complete and the meaning is clear without any additional words. Let me give you a few more examples. Please sit. Geeta smiled. India won. In all these sentences, sit, smiled, and won are all intransitive verbs because there are no objects which are receiving the action. Okay, so here I would like to tell you the other common mistake that people usually do. They remember the words associated with transitive and intransitive verbs and they think that these words are used only for them. For example, in the sentence, they are playing kabaddi. Playing is a transitive verb because there is an object present and action is passed from subject to object. So what people think is that playing can only be used as transitive verb, but that is wrong. What about the sentence, they are playing? Here, it is an intransitive verb. So remember that some verbs can be both transitive as well as intransitive verbs. So you have to look for the object before deciding whether it is transitive or intransitive verb. The next type of verb that we will be learning is linking verb. Linking verbs are used to link or connect a subject with a subject complement, which is usually an adjective or noun that provides more information about the subject. In other words, linking verbs are verbs that serve as a connection between subject and further information about the subject. Usually, to become, to seem, and all forms of to be, that is, am, are, was, were, etc., are used as linking verbs. Unlike transitive and intransitive verbs, linking verbs do not show any action or movement. Instead, they link the subject to its complement and help to describe the subject. For example, in the sentence, she seems happy, the verb seems is a linking verb because it connects the subject she to the complement happy. Let us see some examples of linking verbs in a sentence. I have become strong. Earth is a beautiful planet. Ramya seems like a shy girl. In these sentences, the words have, is, and seems are all linking the subjects with the remaining part of the sentence. So, these are examples of linking verbs. The next type of verb that we will be learning is auxiliary verb. The helping verbs or the auxiliary verbs are the verbs that are used to help another verb sound sensible and meaningful. It is used to change the other verb's tense, mood, or voice. So every time an auxiliary verb is used, you always have one more verb which acts as the main verb in a sentence. Generally, auxiliary verbs comprises of be verbs, have and do verbs. For example, in the sentence, I will go home after football practice, the auxiliary verb will is telling us that the action of the main verb go is going to take place in the future after football practice has ended. If we remove the auxiliary verb will, we get the sentence I go home after football practice. In this case, there is no definite time frame for the action. The sentence suggests that going home after football practice is just something the subject I generally does. Let us take another example. In the sentence, I am reading a book. The auxiliary verb am is used with the main verb reading to indicate present tense. Here are some more examples where auxiliary verbs are used. I may dance with you later. Cheetahs can run incredibly fast. In these sentences, may and can are the helping or auxiliary verbs. Okay, so the next type of verb that we will be learning is modal verb. Modal verbs are special auxiliary verbs that are used to give the sentence a specific mood. Each modal verb is used differently and they help the main verb to convey ideas like ability, necessity, possibility, or permission. There are 9 modal verbs in English. These are may, might, must, can, could, shall, should, will, and would. To this list, we can add the semi-modal or the modal phrases like ought to, have to, need to, and be able to. Let me give you some examples to better understand modal verbs. In the sentence, Tanishka can recite poetry by heart. The auxiliary verb can is expressing an ability that Tanishka possesses. Whereas in the sentence, can I eat ice cream? The modal verb can is used to ask for a permission. So modal verbs play an important role to allow speakers to express a wide range of conditions. Let us take a closer look at each of these 9 modal verbs and the usage. Can is used for expressing ability, asking for permission, or suggesting possibility. For example, I can speak 3 languages. Can I use your phone please? It can rain today. Could is a more polite or past form of can. For example, she could play the piano when she was younger. Could you help me with my homework? It could be a great opportunity. Will is used for making future predictions or promises. For example, I will call you later. The weather will be sunny tomorrow. Would is a more polite or past form of will. Would you like a cup of tea? If I had known, I would have helped you. Shall is used for making suggestions or asking for advice. For example, shall we go to the movies tonight? What shall I wear to the party? Should is used for giving advice or expressing obligation. For example, you should exercise regularly. We should arrive early to avoid the rush. May is used for expressing possibility or asking for permission. It is more formal than can. For example, it may rain this evening. May I borrow your pen, please? Might is a more uncertain or past form of may. For example, she might come to the party tonight. I thought she might be upset. Must is used for expressing strong obligation or necessity. For example, you must submit your assignment on time. This must be the right place. Okay, so the next type of verb that we will be learning is phrasal verb. Phrasal verbs are the verbs combined with an adverb or a preposition, or sometimes both, to give a new meaning which is different from the combined meanings of individual words. Let me give you one example to make things clear. The verb shut means to close, and the adverb down means in a descending direction. However, when we combine both these words, the resulting phrasal verb shut down means to stop the operation of something, which is a different meaning than the two individual words. I have given a list of some common phrasal verbs in the material below, along with their meanings. You can go through that to improve your vocabulary. Okay, so that brings an end to the topic verbs and their types. Let us quickly revise what we have learned in this lesson. First of all, we understood what verbs are, and then we learnt about stative and dynamic verbs. Following that, we learnt about the other different types of verbs like transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, linking verbs, auxiliary verbs, modal verbs, and phrasal verbs. Understanding verbs is of paramount importance for English language learners, as they are the backbone of constructing sentences. Mastering the different types of verbs will empower you to communicate effectively and with confidence. Okay, now let's practice identifying various types of verbs. Here are a few sentences with different types of verbs. Try to identify the type of verb in each sentence. I encourage you to pause the video and attempt the exercise. To check the answers, please refer to the material given below. So that was it about verbs and their types. We will learn about the remaining terminologies associated with verbs in the lesson verb forms. After watching this lesson, you can go through the material given below and test your understanding through a quiz given there. In the next lesson, we will learn about adverbs and their types. So I'll see you in the next lesson. Until then, thank you and happy learning.